But yeah, when it happened, my mom was like, girl, are you okay? And I was not at all. I think the inevitable movement of time helps when going through something like that. But at the same time, you have to be proactive in your healing. I would give someone the time of day to explain like my reasoning and my thoughts and my feelings and whatever. But for someone to do that, how could someone have the audacity not to do that for me? You know what I mean? Like, rude. Hello. Do the work so that you can show up better in future relationships and ultimately show up for yourself and show up for other people in a better way than you have. Hi everyone, you're listening to Transplants, the podcast for 20-somethings moving to a new city and trying to navigate all the trials and tribulations that come with it. I'm your host Joyce, and today we're going to be talking about friendship breakups, which are not necessarily things to sing about, but they could be in the long run if you think about it. Friendship breakups can happen at any point in your life, but can be especially prevalent in your 20s because that's just a specific time of a lot of change, a lot of adjusting to new life. You might be diverging onto a new path, a new chapter in life than your previous relationships, and that causes a breakup. We're going to talk about doing the breaking up versus being broken up with and how to deal with all of the emotions that come with it. To kick us off, I would like to share my testimony. I need to share my testimony. I need to speak my truth and tell you all about my friendship breakup. I mean, friendships in my life have, ended for various reasons, but the most prevalent, I would say, friendship breakup that I reference, I guess, a lot. I mean, don't reference a lot, but the most prevalent one in my life happened in college, right? It was like late college, and it happened with someone that I was friends with throughout high school. We became very close during like our last 2 years of high school because we were involved in a lot of the same stuff. So like a lot of extracurriculars, and we're around a lot of the same people, and inevitably spent a lot of time together, spent a lot of time after school together, volunteering. And then, that was also like college app season. So we helped each other through that and just spent every single day together, essentially. And we ended up going to different colleges, but we would talk on the phone with each other basically every single day. And they would come and visit me at college. And when I was home from college for breaks and stuff, I would always see them at least a couple days, throughout my break and things like that. And it was just like a very close friendship. We, would dream about the future together and talk about our goals together and, all these things that besties do, right? That is a friendship that I held very near and dear to my heart at the time. And it ended very unexpectedly. Without going into much of detail, there was an unexpected loss that happened that kind of made the other person in this friendship reevaluate like their life and their relationships and things like that. So that event, like that loss happened, and we didn't talk on the phone for like a week, which was like weird because like I mentioned, we talked on the phone basically every single day. And then after like a week and a half had passed, we are on the phone, have like a really long conversation, and some things came up that didn't really make sense to me. Like the math was not mathing, the neurons were not firing. Like it just didn't make sense. Some of the things that he was bringing up about our friendship, and I can definitely I take accountability. I can take accountability for, my actions and stuff. And he definitely brought up things that happened like on my end, but I can't even explain it high level without giving you like the full details of the relationship. But overall, the friendship concluded unexpectedly, and he brought up things that just didn't make sense in terms of like the process of the breakup, right? In the conversation that we had. And I was like, okay. And it seemed like there was just like a lack of communication on boundaries that he had that he didn't communicate to me. I guess that was that. It was just very Very strange. Also, I know I'm saying like he and I am a she, but just to preface, there was no entanglement. There was nothing like that. It was very much friendship vibes, okay? So don't say nothing. In conclusion, from my end, I felt like it ended very unexpectedly. Like we had that conversation and then I was like, okay, I'm going to let you take your time to, think, do whatever. And I would try to get him to meet up in person with me. Like, hey, we should go grab dinner or get froyo and blah, blah, blah. And that was just not happening. It did not happen. And I kind of just had to deal with it. It really just like, y'all, it really like blew me over the head. It was a very weird time, very weird conversation. Essentially, I feel like I didn't get the closure that I would have wanted or needed. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I had to deal with what I was given. And I remember I was home at the time because I'm pretty sure it was like a summer break between like college and whatever. I was very stricken, I guess, by the conversation and became sad with the results of that. And my mom clocked that very quickly. She was like, I noticed you've been like really sad and depressed. Like, what's going on? And like, my parents knew about this person because, they were my friend. They've been to my house and talk about them all the time, blah, blah, blah. But when like the breakup happened, I didn't immediately share that with my family because I guess I was still trying to deal with the emotions and trying to figure out for myself what had just happened. But yeah, when it happened, my mom was like, girl, are you okay? And I was not at all. I transparently, they might be watching, but I don't care. And I feel like it's hard for people to admit like, yeah, they did me dirty and I felt bad. But being truthfully vulnerable, with that, I was down bad, babes. I was not having a good time at all. It was truly a struggle for like a month or two, but time helped. And like, eventually I found solace and comfort knowing that I wouldn't treat my friends like that. Like, to me, it didn't make sense how we were like talking on the phone every single day, like invested in each other's lives, like knew each other's family, like, very like a very close, like almost like brother or sister relationship, and then to throw me away like trash like that. No. I get like me trying to be like seeing it from their point of view. Like I get if you feel like you need to cut a relationship out with a person, but it's like to do it so unexpectedly and without like having a conversation, that doesn't make sense. And one could argue that initial conversation when he was like spelling things out or like initially sharing his thoughts could have been like the ultimate conversation or whatever. But like, to me, that was not it. That was not it. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me how I could be so easily thrown away after spending the past couple days years together and like, doing all these things together. That didn't make sense. And I kind of just found solace and comfort knowing that I wouldn't do that to a friend. And ultimately, I don't want a friend in my life who's going to do that to me. But at the same time, with the points that he presented to me, I still took accountability for like my role in like the downfall, I guess, of the relationship. And, I still took that information in. I reflected and stuff like that. But it was still like it felt like very up in the air. You know what I mean? And I feel like I never... Ooh, excuse me. Sorry, y'all. Woo. Anywho, I feel like I never fully got that closure and had to find that closure for myself. But yeah, that is my testimony. It was not a fun thing to go through, but at the end of the day, I feel like maybe it had to happen for a reason. But I'm happy with the relationships and friendships that I have in my life now. And it's interesting to think about what your life would be like if you were still friends with certain people. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, that it is what it is, and we have moved on. But being broken up with, whether it's like a friendship breakup or like a lover partner type thing, is not a fun time at all. Especially when you feel like you didn't get the closure that you were wanting or seeking, like myself. You have to find the closure on your own. If you think about it, like I think about it, like I would give someone the time of day to explain like my reasoning and my thoughts and my feelings and whatever. But for someone to do that, how could someone have the audacity not to do that for me? You know what I mean? Like, rude, hello. But you can't control people's feelings, and you can only control how you respond. So if you are in the space where you haven't had closure on a situation, baby girl, baby boy, baby person, start to find that for yourself. You have to kind of just take the information that you have and see how things panned out and start to, identify patterns, identify, like, look at their behavior, look at your own behavior, and come to a conclusion for yourself, because you're probably never going to get the closure that you wanted. Or maybe you did get some type of closure, but it's not what you wanted. But you have to look at what you know and come to your conclusions. Eventually, you'll have to stop chasing the pursuit of closure and start to look at your own feelings and start to confront how you feel about how the situation and how things panned out. Because yes, the feelings suck and they're hard to deal with, but if you're just chasing closure, then you're not really confronting the real issue, if that makes sense. Because yes, that situation was a problem and like it happened, but it's happened now. There's nothing you can do. You can't really go back. And now you just have to see what it is, see what it was, what happened, and use that information to look forward. Don't try to go back to that person and like chase for like a phone call or like calling them 20 times a day or like a text or like whatever. And yes, I did that. I mean, I did it like, it wasn't like incessant. Like, I don't think I only sent like maybe 1 or 2 text messages, and it was like 1 phone call within the span of like a week or 2. So I don't think I was like an obsessive ex or anything like that. You know what I mean? But if you're finding yourself at a point where you're like constantly trying to reach out to a person and trying to like meet up with them or like call them or something like that, babe, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go, because at this point you should realize that you're not gonna get what you want out of the situation. So don't try to go back and look like Boo Boo the Fool, because you're not. It's okay. It's okay that they're not responding. You can't keep giving your energy to a situation that is not going to change at the end of the day. Why not invest that energy in like your healing and like your current relationships that are, serving you, are good to you, and are right here in front of you, that you're neglecting because you're chasing after, this closure. That energy should be channeled into something positive. And when you're on the receiving end of a breakup, it's very easy to have like a negative mindset and just start to be like, essentially like badmouth the other person, be like, you did this, that, and the third, and you are terrible, and I'm gonna mess you up, and all those things. And I mean, I don't encourage keying anybody's car or busting the windows out or anything like that. No, never mind. I was going to say do what you need to do for your healing, but let's not encourage violence, okay? I'm not going to do that. What I am going to say is don't badmouth people and key anybody's car, because yeah, your feelings are valid. First of all, it's okay to want to feel the need to want to do those things, but you shouldn't act on it, and you shouldn't spend your time like talking bad about this person to like other people. It's definitely okay to talk about the situation and talk about how things panned out and how you felt, but just to be talking crap about someone all the time after the situation has already happened and things like that, it's just like, why are you investing your energy in such a depleting way? On the other hand, when you're doing the breaking up with a person, it can be hard because there's a sense of guilt when doing that, because you spent so much time with this person and you've probably made like a lot of good memories with them. But at the end of the day, you need to focus on what serves you, what fills up your cup. And if that requires you setting a boundary with someone, then you have to be okay with that. And you can't feel guilt or shame or let someone project those feelings onto you when you're setting a boundary. It can be hard to recognize when you feel like you need to, quote unquote, like break up with a friend, but you can start by thinking about how a person makes you feel. If you're starting to feel like you don't really resonate with this person anymore. Like when you're preparing to go like meet up with them, you feel like a sense of dread in your stomach. You like don't want to go, or like when you're with them, you're not having a fun time. When you come back home, you're like, wow, I wish I never went. They made me feel really bad about myself and blah, 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 blah. Those are all signs that this person should not be in your life. If you're doing the breaking up, it doesn't have to be super confrontational. I feel like it's easy to see the narrative of like, oh, they were terrible, and like just like going all in on someone and like reading them to filth. When, I mean, maybe some people deserve that. I mean, I don't know, but it doesn't have to always be like that. Like you can have a civil, normal conversation with the person and just say, hey, XYZ, like these 3 things that you have done have made me feel this way. I don't want to feel that way. And it's been going on for a while now. And I feel like this friendship is not what I need right now. You should not, I know I just said, oh, this has been happening for a couple of months. First of all, communication in any relationship is super important. So if you're starting to feel that way with a person, communicate with that to them. If their behavior doesn't change like over time and after you've communicated your issue with them, then that's when you can be like, okay, this is not it for me. And you can start to set those boundaries and do a friendship breakup if that's what you need. In addition to that, remember that a relationship is 2 ways. You know, it's a 2-sided street. As much as the other person may have done you dirty or, you know, made you feel some type of way, you also have to take time to think about your role in the relationship and take accountability for anything that may have happened. Like if you contributed to a downfalling or something like that, or even allowing people to overstep your boundaries, that's on you, truly, at the end of the day. So it's important for you to take time to reflect on both parties and understand both parties' role in the relationship and use that information to navigate this weird, you know, friendship breakup. Whether you're doing the breaking up or being broken up with, friendship breakups are not easy. And I feel like, at least over the past maybe like year or so, narrative online has been changing, but I feel like in the past, friendship breakups were not held in the same like regard as like a relationship breakup with like a lover or partner. But now people are like, yeah, friendship breakups can hurt just as much or even worse than a lover or partner breakup, because your friend is like, a friend is like your chosen family, right? You're choosing to be with them. You're not related to them by blood. You're choosing to be with them every single day. You're integrating them into different parts of your life, and that can hurt even more, babes. It's, I'm getting like flashbacks to that time. But yeah, if you're going through a friendship breakup, don't gaslight yourself into thinking that like your feelings aren't valid because, you know, you weren't in love with them. But to a certain extent you were, because there's friendship love is very real, and it can run very deep, even deeper than familial love. It's just as valid as a heartbreak with a lover or whatever. But now let's get into healing from a friendship breakup. I think it's important for you to deal with your emotions head on and just confront them as they are. You have to let yourself feel the emotions and give yourself permission to mourn the relationship and mourn what was, because you probably shared a lot of excuse me, so sorry. You probably shared a lot of great memories and like milestones with your friend, and you can be grateful for that. Definitely, you know, practice gratitude in that sense. But then you have to move on, and you can process your emotion in different ways by like talking to other people. I personally love like journaling, going on a walk, listening to music. Maybe you dance, you paint, whatever it is. Find different healthy, important word, healthy outlets for you to get your emotions out. Much like a romantic relationship where people kind of just like purge, you know, their life and get rid of pictures with their ex or like gifts and things like that. You should do the same with a friendship breakup. Get rid of those triggers, whether they're gifts or photos or whatever they are. If it's gonna, you know, trigger negative emotions within you, you should definitely get rid of it. I am definitely a person who keeps little mementos. I'm kind of like a hoarder a little bit, not gonna lie, but I'm a very like nostalgic person and I keep a lot of different things. And at this point in time, like I'm happy to say like they don't trigger me and they don't make me feel a negative emotion when looking at things if they came from like a relationship that no longer exists. But if that's something that will affect your healing when you're going through a breakup like that, then you got to get rid of it. À la poubelle, please. That'll just start to make the healing process a little bit easier. If you didn't necessarily get the closure that you wanted, like myself, I think it's important for you to remember that your friendships exist because of you and like who you are as a person. And just because that relationship ended and maybe that person didn't see you as the best of friends, that doesn't take away from your other relationships, and that doesn't mean that you're just a bad person in general. You have other relationships that exist, and if you could find a person like that, then you're able to find other people in the future. You know what I mean? A breakup doesn't take away from who you are and the person that you are with other people. So just keep that in your back pocket. Like, you're not a bad person. Maybe you did wrong in a situation. Maybe you made a mistake, but it's important for you to take accountability and use that information to adjust your behavior moving forward. With that being said, you also have to do the work to be the friend that you want to be, especially if you played a key. Either way, you're playing a key role in a friendship breakup, but if you were like the catalyst of it all, then we got to do some internal work, figure out like the root problem, the root cause, things like that, whatever it may be. Do the work so that you can show up better in future relationships and ultimately show up for yourself and show up for other people in a better way than you have. Doing that internal work will help you with all of your relationships in the long run, the relationships that you have with other people and the relationship that you have with yourself. Another thing to remember is that bad relationships help you realize what good relationships can look like with time. I know going through a bad relationship, especially if you don't realize that it's a bad relationship while you're in it, can be difficult, and it's hard for like the people around you to watch and be like, what are you doing? Especially if you're like in a toxic relationship and things like that. I'm divesting a little bit, but like I said, the bad relationships can help you figure out like, oh, I should not be treated like this, and I don't deserve this at all, and this is not what good friendship looks like. And knowing that, you're able to recognize what a good relationship looks like and hopefully start to invest more energy into those good relationships. And lastly, I know that people always say that time heals and like helps with healing, whether you're going through a breakup or a loss or whatever it is. And I think the inevitable movement of time helps when going through something like that. But at the same time, you have to be proactive in your healing. You have to take a driver's seat in your healing and actually do the work to do it, because time is going to go on either way, and you can either spend it, sitting in bed, sitting on the couch rotting, or actually doing the work to become better. Instead of wallowing in your sorrow, push yourself to confront the bad feelings head on, because I promise you it'll benefit you in the long run. And I'm not saying to just like ignore your feelings at all, because that is obviously unhealthy and we don't want that. We need some emotional intelligence, okay? But feel your feelings, deal with them, and take the steps to move on, because we don't have time to be sitting and crying all the time, because we have one life to live and we're not going to just spend it sitting and just doing nothing, babes. Like, that's not it. You have a life to live. You have other relationships to build, other relationships to cultivate. And as terrible and sucky as it is to be going through a breakup like that, I feel your pain. Like I said, I've been through it, but you will make it through. There's so many people in this world that you have yet to meet that will love you and cherish you and treat you how you deserve to be treated. And that should serve as a good reminder for you. But yeah, that is my friendship breakup story, and how I dealt with it and how you could deal with it too. I hope this is helpful. I know it sucks real bad, but you shall prevail. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. 5 years from now, you'll look back and be like, wow, that really was not fun, but I'm so happy with my life now because that's how I am looking at it. But yeah, that concludes today's episode. Please be sure to follow Transplants Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and follow and rate the show 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I said that a little bit weird, Apple Podcasts. Anywho, I hope this helped. Remember, you are loved and you're not as alone as you think.